Jack Miller stands frozen in the doorway of his son's bedroom, briefcase still in hand. His two sons, Charles and Stephen, 7 years old, identical twins, are laughing. Not the polite, hollow sound he's heard from therapists trying too hard. Real laughter. The kind that used to fill this penthouse before the accident. They're standing. Both of them. Wobbly, yes. Gripping the edge of the bed. But standing. And they're waving brightly colored towels at a woman Jack hired 3 days ago to scrub floors. Gloria Gibson, 32, wearing a simple gray uniform, kneels on the carpet, clapping her hands in rhythm. "That's it, baby. Wave it high. Show me you can reach the sky." Charles giggles, stretching his towel overhead. Stephen's legs tremble, but he doesn't fall. Jack's phone slips from his fingers. It hits the marble with a crack. The room goes silent. Gloria turns, her smile fading slightly. The boys freeze, towels drooping. "Mr. Miller," Gloria says quietly, "we were just—" "What did you do?" His voice is barely a whisper. She stands slowly, brushing her knees. "I asked them what they liked. They said they missed playing." Jack's gaze shifts to his sons. They're still standing. 2 years. 7 neurologists. Experimental treatments that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. And nothing had brought them this close to movement. "Papa?" Charles's voice is small, uncertain. Jack doesn't move. Can't move. What if this isn't real? What if I let myself believe and it all disappears? The thought cuts through him like winter wind through the gaps in his carefully built walls. 3 days earlier, the penthouse on the 50th floor overlooked Chicago's skyline, glass and steel stretching in every direction, a kingdom of precision and control. Jack Miller had built an empire in cybersecurity. His company protected governments, hospitals, banks. He was very good at protecting things, except the ones that mattered most. 2 years ago, Jack's wife, Sarah, died in the car accident that paralyzed their sons. He'd been driving. A truck ran a red light. 3 seconds. That's all it took to shatter everything. The apartment was silent in the way expensive places often are. Thick carpets absorbing footsteps, floor-to-ceiling windows sealed against the noise of the living city below. Jack had designed it that way after the accident. Control what you can control. Jack sat at his desk in the corner office, reviewing quarterly projections. The numbers were strong. They were always strong. Numbers didn't grieve. Numbers didn't ask why. Behind him, through the open door, he could see into the boys' room. Charles and Stephen sat in their wheelchairs, staring at a tablet. A physical therapist knelt between them, demonstrating leg stretches with the mechanical cheerfulness of someone paid to pretend everything was fine. "Can you try to push against my hand, Charles? Just a little pressure." Nothing. The therapist smiled anyway. "That's okay. We'll try again Thursday." Jack closed his laptop. He'd heard those words 100 times. We'll try again. Give it time. Stay hopeful. Hope was expensive. He'd spent $2 million on it so far. The front door chimed. Jack glanced at the security monitor. A woman stood in the hallway. Black, early 30s, wearing a simple coat over what looked like a church dress. Her application had been sparse. Previous work: choir assistant at Bright Hope Baptist, daycare aide, house cleaner. No medical training, no degrees. But her reference letter had been oddly compelling. Gloria doesn't just clean spaces. She makes them feel like someone cares again. After losing her brother to cancer last year, she's learned that presence matters more than perfection. Jack had hired her because his housekeeper had quit, said the apartment felt too sad, and he needed someone who wouldn't ask questions. He opened the door. Gloria Gibson offered a small, warm smile. "Mr. Miller, thank you for the opportunity." Her voice had a melody to it, not performative, just natural, like she'd learned to speak through song. "The kitchen needs attention," Jack said. "The boys' bathroom. Linens twice a week. I've left a list on the counter." "Of course." She stepped inside, glancing around. Her gaze paused on the boys' room. "Are those your sons?" Jack stiffened. "Yes." "They're beautiful." He didn't know how to respond to that. People usually said, "I'm sorry," or, "How are they doing?" Beautiful felt too simple. Too true. "What do they like?" Gloria asked. Jack blinked. "Excuse me?" "Your sons. What makes them smile?" The question landed strangely. No doctor had ever asked that. They asked about muscle tone, nerve response, therapy compliance, not joy, not personhood. "I don't know," Jack admitted, the words tasting like failure. Gloria nodded, no judgment in her expression. "Then I'll find out." She walked toward the kitchen, humming softly, a gospel tune, low and comforting, something about burdens being lifted. Jack returned to his desk, but he couldn't focus on the projections anymore. That evening, after Gloria had left, Jack found a small sticky note on the refrigerator. "Charles likes orange. Stephen likes the sound of rain. They both asked if I could come back tomorrow. I said I'd have to ask their papa first." Something in Jack's chest tightened, a sensation he hadn't felt in 2 years, like the first crack in frozen ground. He crumpled the note, then smoothed it out again and tucked it into his wallet, next to a photo of Sarah. If this story is already stirring something in you, stay with us. Subscribe so you never miss a moment of hope like this. Let's walk this journey together. Gloria returned the next morning with a bag of fabric scraps, old towels, a torn yellow blanket, a length of soft blue cloth. "What is that?" Jack asked from the hallway. "Textures," Gloria said simply. She knelt beside the boys' wheelchairs. "Good morning, gentlemen. Ready to play?" Stephen looked at his father. Jack gave a curt nod, then glanced at his watch. Board meeting in 40 minutes. Gloria spread the fabrics on the floor. "Charles, can you tell me which one feels the softest?" Charles reached down slowly, his fingers trembling slightly. He brushed the yellow blanket. "This one." "Good eye. That was your mama's favorite color too, wasn't it?" Jack froze in the doorway. Charles's eyes went wide. "How did you know?" "Your papa has a picture on his desk. She's wearing a yellow scarf." Jack's throat closed. He'd forgotten that photo was visible. "Stephen," Gloria continued gently, "which one sounds the loudest when you shake it?" Stephen picked up a rough towel and waved it. It made a soft whap against the air. Gloria laughed, a bright, genuine sound. "Now that's a rhythm. Can you wave it to the beat?" She clapped her hands in time. 1, 2, 3, 4, Stephen tried. His arm wobbled, but he matched her tempo. Charles giggled. "I want to try." Jack stood in the doorway, briefcase in hand, running late for a board meeting. But he didn't move. He watched Charles wave the orange towel, awkward, joyful, alive. "Mr. Miller," Gloria said without looking at him. "They're doing great. You can go." It wasn't dismissive, just permission. Permission to trust someone else. Permission to leave without guilt. Jack left. But he thought about that yellow blanket all through his presentation on data encryption protocols. By the third day, Gloria had introduced music. She sang while she worked. Old hymns, folk songs, Motown classics. Her voice carried through the penthouse, filling the silence that had settled there like dust. "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." Jack returned home early, something he never did. He heard laughter before he reached the door. Not therapist laughter, but real, unguarded joy. Inside, Gloria knelt on the carpet, holding a towel in each hand. Charles and Stephen sat on the edge of their beds. Not in their wheelchairs, but perched on the mattress, legs dangling over the side. Jack's breath caught. They hadn't sat like that in 2 years. Too dangerous, the therapists had said. Risk of falling. Okay, ready? Gloria called. When I wave the red towel, you reach for it. When I wave the blue one, you reach for that. Let's see how fast you are. She waved the red towel. Charles leaned forward, stretching his hand, his torso engaging. She waved the blue one. Stephen reached, his whole body shifting with intention. Now both. The boys lunged, and suddenly, impossibly, Stephen's feet touched the floor. His legs bore weight. He pushed up, standing for half a second, maybe a full second, before his knees buckled. Gloria caught him, her eyes shining. You did it! You stood, baby, you stood! Charles's mouth fell open. I want to stand too! Miss Gloria, help me stand! Gloria helped him to the edge of the bed. Okay, use my hands. No pressure. Just try. Ready? 1, 2. Charles pushed. His legs straightened. He stood, shaking, gripping her wrists with white knuckles. And then Jack's phone hit the floor, the screen shattering across marble. Gloria stood slowly. The boys sank back onto the bed, breathing hard. Jack stared at them, at her. How? His voice cracked. They haven't moved their legs in 2 years. Gloria's expression was calm, gentle. They just needed a reason to try. That's not how paralysis works. Jack's mind raced through every medical report, every prognosis. Permanent spinal damage, incomplete signals, irreversible. Maybe it's not about how it works, Mr. Miller. Maybe it's about what they believe they can do. Jack's jaw tightened. Anger flared, not at her exactly, but at the hope blooming in his chest. Hope hurt. Hope was the enemy. I hired you to clean, not to give them false hope. False hope? Gloria's voice remained soft, but something steely entered her eyes. What's false about believing they're still whole, that their worth isn't tied to whether their legs work? You don't understand. I understand loss, Mr. Miller. Gloria's voice shook slightly. I buried my brother 8 months ago, watched cancer take him piece by piece. And you know what he told me the day before he died? He said, Gloria, don't let people mistake my body for my soul. Your sons are still here, still whole, still worth seeing. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jack wanted to shout, wanted to call Dr. Peterson and demand an explanation, wanted to build the walls higher, thicker, impenetrable, but all he could see was Stephen's face when he stood. The pure, unfiltered joy. The way Charles had said, I want to try. When was the last time his sons had wanted to try anything? Jack's voice faltered. I need to think. Gloria picked up her bag. I'll finish the laundry and go. No, wait. Jack ran a hand through his hair. Come back tomorrow. She studied him for a long moment. Only if you trust me, Mr. Miller. Not just with your house, with your sons. I'm trying to. Then try harder. Gloria's tone gentled. Because they're trying, every single day, and they need to see you try too. After she left, Jack sat on the edge of Charles's bed. His son leaned against him, small and warm. Papa, Charles whispered. Miss Gloria makes my legs feel like they remember how to work. Jack closed his eyes, pulling his son closer. What if she's right? What if all this time they just needed someone to believe in them, and I've been too terrified to let anyone try? Dr. Lawrence Peterson arrived the next afternoon, summoned by Jack's urgent call. Jack had spent the previous night researching spontaneous motor recovery, neural plasticity, unexplained remission. He needed logic. He needed science to tell him this was real, or to prove it was an illusion before his son's hearts broke. Dr. Peterson was a neurologist, 56, silver-haired, with the kind of calm authority that came from years of delivering difficult news. He'd been the one to tell Jack, 2 years ago, that his sons would never walk again. "I'm sorry, Mr. Miller. The damage is permanent." He examined Charles and Stephen in the boys' bedroom, while Jack stood by the window, arms crossed, jaw tight. Gloria had been asked to wait in the kitchen. Jack could hear her humming, that same gospel tune, something about being carried. "Lift your leg for me, Charles, as high as you can." Charles bit his lip, straining. His knee lifted 2 inches off the bed, more than Jack had ever seen. Dr. Peterson made a note on his tablet. "Good. Stephen, your turn." Stephen managed 3 inches, then 4. Jack's heart hammered. This is it. This is proof. He'll see. Dr. Peterson set down his tablet, his expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Miller, may I speak with you privately?" They moved to the hallway. Through the open door, Gloria's humming drifted from the kitchen, wrapping around them like a gentle current. "It's remarkable," Dr. Peterson said carefully. "There's definitely increased motor response, measurable improvement in voluntary movement." Relief flooded through Jack. "So they're healing. They're actually—" "But," Dr. Peterson interrupted, his tone sharpening, "I need to be very clear with you. This is not recovery." The relief turned to ice. "What is it then?" "Likely reflexive adaptation. The brain can sometimes reroute signals in response to intense stimulation. Music, movement, emotional engagement. We call it neural excitement. It mimics voluntary control, but it's temporary. A spike, not sustainable improvement." Temporary. The word tasted like ash. "Jack." Dr. Peterson's voice softened. "I know what you're thinking. I know what you're hoping. But paralysis from traumatic spinal injury doesn't reverse because someone plays games with towels and sings hymns. If I let you believe otherwise, I'm failing you as your physician." Jack looked back toward the boys' room. Charles was humming Gloria's song now, swaying slightly in his chair. "So what do you suggest?" "Continue physical therapy. Monitor their progress clinically." "And—" Dr. Peterson hesitated. "Be very careful about who you allow to influence them. This woman, Gloria, she may have good intentions, but false hope can cause more damage than the original injury. When the excitement fades and they're back where they started, the psychological toll will be devastating. For them. For you." He placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "Protect them from disappointment, Jack. It's the kindest thing you can do. It's what Sarah would have wanted." The mention of Sarah hit like a physical blow. After the doctor left, Jack found Gloria in the kitchen, folding dish towels into neat squares. "What did he say?" she asked quietly. "That it's not real. That their bodies are just reacting. That it won't last." Gloria set down the towel, her hands stilling. "And what do you believe?" Jack exhaled slowly, the weight of 2 years pressing on his chest. "I believe I've spent 2 years hoping for a miracle, and I believe hope is the most expensive thing I've ever paid for. It cost me my wife. It's costing me my sons every day I can't fix them. And now it's—" His voice broke. "I can't afford to hope anymore, Gloria." "Then maybe," Gloria said gently, meeting his eyes with unflinching compassion, "you've been buying the wrong kind." She picked up her bag. "I should go." "No." Jack stepped forward, desperation cracking through his control. "Stay. Please. They need—" "What do you need, Mr. Miller?" The question hung between them. I need to believe my sons can be happy. I need to believe I haven't destroyed them. I need to believe something good can still happen in this God-forsaken apartment. But what he said was, I need you to be careful, with their hearts. Gloria's expression softened. I'm not a doctor, Mr. Miller. I can't promise you medical miracles, but I can promise that while I'm here, your sons will know they're loved. Not fixed, not cured. Loved, exactly as they are. Jack's throat tightened. Is that enough? It's everything, Gloria said. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He stood in the boys' darkened room, watching them breathe. Charles curled on his side, Stephen with one arm flung over his head. What if Dr. Peterson is right? What if I'm letting Gloria give them hope that will shatter them? But then he remembered. His sons had laughed today. Really laughed. When was the last time that happened? When was the last time he'd seen them try anything without fear? Jack knelt beside Stephen's bed, whispering into the darkness. I don't know if you can really walk again, buddy. I don't know if any of this is real. But I promise I'll stop being so afraid. I'll try to believe. For you, for Charles, I'll try. Stephen stirred, mumbling in his sleep. Mama said, miracles are quiet. Jack froze. Stephen hadn't mentioned Sarah in over a year. Jack pressed a kiss to his son's forehead, tears slipping down his face. Okay, Sarah, if you're out there, if miracles are real, please let this one be real. The breaking point came exactly 1 week later. Jack had been watching, truly watching, how Gloria interacted with the boys. She didn't treat their limitations as tragedies to be pitied or puzzles to be solved. She treated them as children, as whole, valuable, worthy human beings who happened to need wheelchairs. She asked what they wanted for lunch. She let them choose which songs to sing. She showed them pictures of her nephew and asked if they wanted to draw pictures back. She made them visible. And in being seen, they bloomed. But with every burst of laughter, every moment of progress, Jack felt the fear tighten around his chest. What happens when this ends? What happens when she leaves and the magic disappears? On the 7th day, Gloria placed a blue towel on the floor, 2 feet away from Stephen's wheelchair. Stephen, can you reach that towel for me? Stephen leaned, stretched. His torso shifted, his core engaging. His legs, those legs that hadn't borne weight in 2 years, began to tense. That's it, baby. You're so close. Stephen's face scrunched with concentration. He gripped the armrests, and then he pushed. His legs straightened. His feet hit the floor. He stood, fully, completely stood, and took 1 stumbling step forward. Charles screamed with joy. Stephen! You're walking! Gloria lunged forward, catching Stephen as his legs gave out. But he was laughing, tears streaming down his face. I did it! Miss Gloria, I walked! I really walked! You did, baby! You walked! Gloria held him close, her own voice thick with emotion. I'm so proud of you! Charles wheeled forward desperately. Me! I want to try! Miss Gloria, help me walk too. And that's when Jack appeared in the doorway. He'd been in a virtual meeting with investors, heard the screaming, thought someone was hurt. Instead, he saw Stephen, his son who doctors swore would never take another step, standing in Gloria's arms, laughing. Something inside Jack shattered. That's enough, he said, his voice cutting through the joy like a blade. The room went silent. Gloria looked up, still holding Stephen. Mr. Miller. I said that's enough. Jack's voice rose, all his fear transmuting into fury. You're pushing them too hard. What if Stephen had fallen? What if he'd hit his head? What if he'd injured his spine further? He didn't fall. I was right there. This time? What about next time? What happens when you're not here and they try this on their own because you've convinced them they can do the impossible? Jack's hands clenched into fists. You're not a medical professional. You're not a therapist. You don't understand the damage you could cause. Gloria stood slowly, settling Stephen gently back into his wheelchair. Her expression was calm, but Jack saw the hurt flash in her eyes. These are my sons, Jack continued, his voice shaking. Not your experiments in faith healing, not your inspirational project. Mine. And I won't stand by while you fill their heads with false hope that will destroy them when reality comes crashing back. False hope, Gloria repeated softly. Yes, that's exactly what this is. Jack gestured wildly at the room. Towels and songs and prayers aren't medicine. They're delusions. And when the novelty wears off and they realize they're still paralyzed, still broken, they are not broken, Gloria said, her voice still gentle but carrying a steel core beneath the kindness. And if you truly believe they are, Mr. Miller, then you're the one who needs healing, not them. The words hit like a slap. Get out. Gloria's eyes shimmered, but she didn't cry. She picked up her bag with steady hands. I'm sorry I overstepped. Miss Gloria, Charles' voice cracked with desperation. Please don't go. Please. She paused, her hand on the doorframe. She looked at Charles, then Stephen, her expression full of love and sorrow. It's okay, sweetheart. Your papa loves you. He's just very, very scared. She turned to Jack one last time. You're not afraid they won't walk again, Mr. Miller. You're afraid they will. And you'll have to admit you stopped believing in them when they needed you most. You'll have to face the fact that you've been so busy protecting them from disappointment that you forgot to let them live. Her voice softened, cracked. Your wife wouldn't have wanted this. She wouldn't have wanted you to build a prison out of grief and lock your sons inside it with you. Jack's vision blurred. Gloria. But she was already gone. The door closed softly behind her. Charles started sobbing, deep, gulping sobs that shook his small frame. Stephen stared at his father, confusion and betrayal written across his face. Papa, why? Stephen's voice was barely a whisper. She was helping us. Jack opened his mouth, closed it. He had no answer that wouldn't sound like the coward he was. He stood alone in the suddenly silent apartment, surrounded by colorful towels scattered across the floor like discarded dreams. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He sat in the darkened living room, staring out at the city lights, 50 floors above a world that kept moving while his remained frozen. The penthouse had never felt emptier. You stopped believing in them when they needed you most. Had he? He'd hired the best doctors, paid for every treatment, rearranged his entire life around their care, worked himself to exhaustion to afford the therapy, the equipment, the specialists. But when had he last played with them? When had he last asked what made them happy? What do they like? Gloria's first question, the one he couldn't answer. Jack's phone buzzed, a text from his assistant. Dr. Peterson's follow-up notes are in your inbox. Also, board meeting moved to 9 a.m. tomorrow. He opened the email, scanned the clinical language. Minimal sustainable improvement. Recommend tempered expectations. Consider psychological evaluation to address unrealistic hope patterns. And then, at the bottom, a handwritten note. Jack, I know this is hard, but false hope can be more damaging than acceptance. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for the people we love is protect them from disappointment. It's not giving up. It's growing up. Sarah understood that. I hope you will too. Jack closed the email. A memory surfaced. Unbidden. Sharp. Sarah, 8 months pregnant with the twins, standing in the nursery they'd painted together. Yellow walls, orange curtains. Jack, promise me something. Anything. If something ever happens to me, don't let fear run your life. Don't let it run theirs. Our boys deserve a father who believes in miracles, even the small ones, especially the small ones." He'd laughed, pulled her close. "Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me anyway, I promise." Jack's hands shook as he pulled out his wallet, finding the sticky note Gloria had left that first day. "Charles likes orange. Stephen likes the sound of rain. Such simple things, such important things, and he hadn't known." He thought of Gloria's voice. They just needed someone to see them. He thought of Charles standing, Stephen taking that step, the pure joy on their faces. He thought of Dr. Peterson's words, "Protect them from disappointment." And he thought of Sarah's, "Don't let fear run your life." Jack pressed his palms against his eyes. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I broke my promise. I let fear win." He pulled out his phone and typed a message to Gloria, then deleted it. Then typed it again. "I'm sorry. You were right about everything. Please come back." His finger hovered over send. What if she says no? What if I've ruined it? The fear rose again, familiar and suffocating. But then he heard Charles's voice in his memory. "Miss Gloria makes my legs feel like they remember how to work." And Stephen's, "Papa, why?" She was helping us. Jack pressed send before he could stop himself. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally. Why should I? Jack stared at the words. She had every right to refuse, every right to walk away. He typed, "Because my sons need you. Because I need to learn how to believe again. Because I'm terrified and broken and I don't know how to fix this, but you do. Please." This time the response came quickly. "I don't fix people, Mr. Miller. I see them. If you can't see your sons as whole, I can't help you." Jack typed, "Teach me how." A long pause. Then, "I'll think about it." Jack set down his phone and walked to the boys' room. They were both asleep. Charles curled tight, Stephen's face still streaked with dried tears. He knelt between their beds, whispering into the darkness. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I've been so afraid of losing you that I forgot you were still here, still fighting, still hoping." His voice broke. "You're both so much braver than me, so much stronger." He touched each of their heads gently. "I don't know if Gloria will come back, but I promise, I swear on your mother's memory, I will never make you small again. I will never tell you your hope is false. Whatever happens with your legs, you are whole. You are enough. You are everything." Charles stirred, his hand reaching out in sleep. Jack took it, holding on tight. "Please, Gloria, please come back. Not for me, for them." Gloria didn't respond to Jack's text that night, or the next morning. By noon, Jack was frantic. He'd called in sick to work, the first time in 7 years. He sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand, typing and deleting message after message. Charles and Stephen were silent. They'd barely touched breakfast. They sat in their wheelchairs by the window, staring down at the street 50 floors below, searching for a gray uniform that wouldn't come. "Papa?" Charles said finally. His voice was small, defeated. "Is Miss Gloria ever coming back?" Jack set down his phone. He crossed the room and knelt in front of his sons, taking their hands. "I don't know, buddy. I said some really hurtful things. I was scared and I was wrong, and I pushed away the best thing that's happened to us in 2 years." He took a shaky breath. "I'm going to try to fix it, but I can't promise it'll work." "Why were you scared?" Stephen asked. Jack looked at his son. Really looked. Stephen's eyes were Sarah's eyes, clear and unflinching. "Because..." Jack's voice caught. "Because when I saw you standing, when I saw you so happy, I thought about what would happen if you tried again and fell, or if the doctors were right and it was all temporary. I thought about how it would feel to watch you lose that hope. He wiped his eyes. I thought it would hurt less if I stopped it before it started. But Papa, Charles said quietly, it already hurts. The simple truth of it gutted him. I know it does. Jack pulled them both close. And I'm so sorry. You deserved better. You deserved a father who was brave enough to hope with you. They sat like that for a long time, 3 people trying to hold together the pieces of a family that grief had scattered. The doorbell rang at 2 p.m. Jack's heart leapt. He rushed to the door, hope and fear warring in his chest. Gloria stood in the hallway. She wore the same simple coat, but her eyes were guarded. Tired. "Miss Gloria!" The boys' voices rang out behind him. She smiled at them, warm, genuine. But when her gaze shifted to Jack, it cooled. "May I come in?" "Of course. Please." Jack stepped aside, his throat tight. Gloria walked past him, kneeling immediately to hug Charles and Stephen. They clung to her, Charles crying into her shoulder. "I thought you were gone forever," Charles sobbed. "Shh, baby. I'm here. I'm here." She looked up at Jack. "May I speak with you? Privately?" They moved to the kitchen. Jack leaned against the counter, hands shaking. "I almost didn't come back," Gloria said quietly. "What you said yesterday, it hurt. Not because you yelled, but because you looked at your sons and saw brokenness. You looked at their joy and called it delusion. I know, and Let me finish." Her voice was firm. "I lost my brother, Mr. Miller. Watched him waste away for 8 months. Toward the end, he couldn't walk, could barely speak. And you know what he told me?" Tears shimmered in her eyes. He said, "Gloria, I'm not less than I was. I'm just different, and different is okay." She stepped closer. "Your sons aren't broken. They're different, and they need a father who can see the difference, who can celebrate them standing even if they fall, who can love them as they are, not as you wish they'd be." Jack's vision blurred. "I want to be that father. I don't know how." "Yes, you do." Gloria's expression softened. "You just have to stop being so terrified. Fear makes everything small, Mr. Miller, including love." She held his gaze. "I'll come back, but only if you promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll play with them. Not supervise, not manage. Play, like a father, like someone who remembers what joy feels like." Jack nodded, unable to speak. "And promise me," Gloria continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, "that you'll stop punishing yourself for the accident. Your wife's death wasn't your fault. The boys' injuries weren't your fault. You can't control everything, Mr. Miller. Sometimes you just have to trust that love is enough." The words broke something open in Jack's chest, something that had been locked tight for 2 years. "I don't know if I can." "Then learn," Gloria said gently. "I'll help you, but you have to try. For them, for you." Jack took a shuddering breath. "Okay, I'll try." Gloria nodded. Then she smiled, small but real. "Good. Now let's go play with your sons." They spent the afternoon on the carpet. Jack, Gloria, Charles, and Stephen. Gloria taught Jack the towel game, showed him how to follow the boys' lead rather than directing them. "Let them choose the colors, Mr. Miller. Let them set the rhythm." "Jack," he corrected quietly. "Please, call me Jack." Gloria's smile widened. "Okay, Jack." Stephen chose a blue towel. Charles picked orange. Jack held a red one, feeling awkward and uncertain. "Okay, ready?" Gloria called. "When I clap, everyone wave your towel as high as you can." She clapped. Jack waved his towel. It felt ridiculous. Childish. The boys giggled. Higher, Papa, Charles called. You're not even trying. Jack waved it higher. The boys laughed harder. And slowly, so slowly, Jack felt something loosen in his chest. A tightness he'd carried so long he'd forgotten it was there. He started to laugh, too. Gloria watched him, her eyes soft. There you are. That evening, after the boys were asleep, Gloria lingered in the kitchen. Thank you, Jack said quietly. For coming back, for giving me another chance. I didn't come back for you, Gloria said gently. I came back for them, but... She paused. I'm glad you're trying. That takes courage. I don't feel courageous. Courage never does. She smiled. It just shows up and hopes for the best. Jack studied her. This woman who'd walked into his frozen world and melted it with nothing but warmth and faith. Why do you do this? He asked. Help people like us. Gloria was quiet for a moment, her fingers tracing the edge of a dish towel. When my brother was dying, I felt so helpless. I couldn't fix him, couldn't save him. All I could do was sit with him, sing to him, hold his hand. Her voice wavered. And one day, near the end, he told me that was enough. That presence was everything. That I didn't need to fix him. I just needed to see him. She looked up, meeting Jack's gaze. So that's what I do now. I see people. I remind them they're worth seeing. Jack's throat tightened. You're remarkable. No, Gloria said softly. I'm just paying attention. Most people are so busy trying to fix things, they forget to notice what's already beautiful. She picked up her bag. I'll see you tomorrow, Jack. Tomorrow, he echoed. After she left, Jack stood at the boys' doorway, watching them sleep. Sarah, he thought, I think you sent her to us. I think you knew we needed someone who could see past the wheelchairs and the grief and the fear, someone who could remind us how to live again. Thank you. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but it happened. Over the next 3 weeks, Gloria and Jack developed a rhythm. She worked with the boys in the mornings. He joined them in the afternoons. She taught him how to listen, how to follow rather than lead, how to celebrate small victories without making them desperate performances. Charles lifted his leg 3 inches today, Gloria would say, and Jack learned to respond with, That's amazing, buddy. Instead of immediately calling Dr. Peterson to analyze whether it was real progress or another temporary spike. He learned to play, to laugh, to sit on the floor without checking his watch every 5 minutes. He learned what his sons liked. Charles loved knock-knock jokes, and the color orange, and the way rain sounded against the windows. Stephen loved singing, especially Gloria's gospel songs, and building block towers and telling elaborate stories about superhero twins who saved the world in wheelchairs. He learned that his sons were happy. Even with paralyzed legs, even without their mother, they were whole and joyful and brave. And slowly, Jack learned to be those things too. The miracle happened on a Tuesday. Jack was in his home office, reviewing contracts, when he heard Gloria's voice, high, urgent, joyful. Jack, come here, right now. He bolted down the hall, heart in his throat. The boys' room door was open. Inside, Stephen stood in the center of the carpet. No wheelchair, no bed to grip, no Gloria's hands to hold. Just standing, all by himself. Papa! Stephen's voice shook with excitement and wonder. Look, I'm doing it. I'm standing all by myself. Jack's legs nearly gave out. Charles sat at the edge of his bed, gripping the mattress, his entire face lit with joy. Stephen's doing it, Papa. He's really doing it. Gloria stood to the side, tears streaming down her face, hands pressed to her mouth. Jack crossed the room slowly, afraid any sudden movement would break the spell. Stephen, he breathed. Buddy, you're standing. I know. Stephen's legs trembled, but he didn't fall. Miss Gloria was singing, and I wanted to stand up and sing with her. So I did. How long? Jack asked Gloria. 15 seconds so far. Her voice was thick with emotion. They watched together as Stephen stood for 20 seconds. 25, 30. Then his legs began to shake harder. Okay, baby, Gloria said gently. You can sit now. You did so good. No. Stephen's face scrunched with determination. I want to stand longer. His knees buckled. Jack dove forward, catching his son before he hit the floor. He held Stephen close, both of them trembling. You did it, Jack whispered into Stephen's hair. You stood all by yourself. I'm so proud of you. So proud. Stephen pulled back, grinning. Did you see me, Papa? Did you see? I saw everything. Jack kissed his forehead. You're incredible. Charles's voice cut through the moment. I want to try. Papa, Miss Gloria, help me try. Gloria knelt beside Charles's bed. You sure, baby? Yes. I want to stand like Stephen. Jack settled Stephen gently into his wheelchair, then moved to Charles's other side. Okay, Gloria said softly. We're right here. We've got you. Ready? Charles nodded, his small face set with fierce determination. 1, Gloria counted. 2, 3. Charles pushed off the bed, his legs straightened. He stood, shaken, wobbling, but standing. I'm doing it! His voice was pure joy. Papa, I'm standing! Jack knelt in front of him, hands hovering close but not touching. You are, buddy. You're doing it all by yourself. Charles stood for 5 seconds. Then 10. His legs began to shake. You can sit now, Jack said gently. Not yet. Charles's jaw set, the same stubborn expression Sarah used to make. I'm going to walk to you, Papa. I'm going to walk. Charles, you don't have to. Yes, I do. And before Jack could stop him, Charles lifted his right foot, placed it forward. His leg bore his weight, then his left foot. Another step. 1 step. 2. 3 wobbling, miraculous steps across 2 feet of carpet. Then he fell forward into Jack's arms. Jack caught him, holding him so tightly. Around them, Gloria was crying, laughing, her hands raised in silent praise. Stephen wheeled over, grabbing his brother's hand. Charles! You walked! You walked! I did! Charles buried his face in Jack's shoulder. Papa, I did it! I really did it! Jack couldn't speak, could only hold his sons, both of them, arms wrapped around each other, tears soaking into their small shirts. Over their heads, Jack met Gloria's eyes. Thank you, he mouthed. She shook her head, smiling through tears. They did it themselves. They just needed someone to believe they could. That night, after the boys were finally asleep, exhausted from excitement and triumph, Jack found Gloria in the kitchen, making tea. They're going to try again tomorrow, Jack said, leaning against the doorframe. Charles wants to walk to the window. Stephen wants to stand for a full minute. And you're okay with that? Jack smiled. A real smile, unguarded. I'm terrified, but I'm learning that terror and hope can exist in the same space. Gloria poured 2 cups of tea, handing one to Jack. That's wisdom, right there. They stood in comfortable silence, sipping tea, the city lights glittering beyond the windows. I called Dr. Peterson this afternoon, Jack said finally. Told him what happened. What? He wants to run tests, imaging, full neurological workup. And I told him yes. But I also told him that even if he can't explain it, even if he says it's temporary or impossible or a statistical anomaly, I'm going to trust what I saw. I'm going to trust them. Gloria's eyes shimmered. That's growth, Jack. Real growth. I learned it from you. She shook her head. You learned it from your sons. I just helped you pay attention." Jack set down his tea, his expression turning serious. "Gloria, I need you to know, you've given me my life back. You've given me my sons back. And I don't—" His voice caught. "I don't know how to thank you for that." "You already have." Gloria reached out, squeezing his hand briefly. "Every time you sit on the floor and play, every time you laugh, every time you choose hope over fear, that's thanks enough." Jack held her gaze, something shifting between them, something warm and fragile and new. Not romance, not yet, but the seed of it, the possibility. "Will you stay?" he asked quietly. "Not as a housekeeper, not as a caregiver, just stay as part of this family?" Gloria's breath caught. "Jack, I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I'm just asking you to know that there's a place for you here, always. Whether the boys walk every day or never walk again, you have a home here, if you want it." A tear slipped down Gloria's cheek. She wiped it away, laughing softly. "You're getting better at this." "At what?" "At asking people to stay without making it sound like a contract negotiation." Jack laughed, a real, full laugh. "I'm working on it." Gloria squeezed his hand again, longer this time. "I'll stay, not because you asked, but because I want to. Because somewhere along the way, you and those beautiful boys became my family too." Relief and joy flooded through Jack. "Good. That's good." They stood together in the quiet kitchen, hands linked, two people who'd found each other in the ruins of loss and grief. Outside, snow began to fall. The first snow of the season, soft and clean and new. 6 months later. The penthouse no longer felt like a fortress. The windows stayed open now, letting in the sounds of the city, sirens and laughter and music from the street below. The silence had been replaced by chaos. Toys scattered across the living room, drawings taped to the refrigerator, Gloria's gospel music drifting from the kitchen every morning. Life. Messy. Loud. Beautiful life. Charles and Stephen walked now, not perfectly, not without effort. But they walked. Some days were better than others. Some days their legs trembled and they needed the wheelchairs. Other days they ran, awkward, lurching, joyful running, through the apartment, chasing each other with towels and laughter. Dr. Peterson had run every test imaginable. MRI, nerve conduction studies, full neurological workup. The results were impossible to explain. Partial nerve regeneration, unexpected neural pathway formation, muscle recovery that defied every medical model. "I don't understand it," he'd admitted to Jack in their last appointment. "By every measure I know this shouldn't have happened. But it did, and I'm glad I was wrong." He'd apologized to Gloria, shaken her hand, called her a miracle worker. Gloria had smiled kindly and said, "I'm not. I just helped them remember who they were." The apartment was different in other ways, too. Jack had hired a new assistant to take over more of his workload. He came home every day by 5 p.m., sometimes earlier. Work was important, but it wasn't everything anymore. He'd learned to cook. Badly, but he tried. Pancakes on Saturdays, spaghetti on Wednesdays. The boys loved it, even when the pasta was too soft and the pancakes were too burnt. He'd learned to play games that had no purpose except joy, to build pillow forts, to sing off-key, to let his sons win at cards even though they definitely cheated. He'd learned to live again. And Gloria had stayed. Not as an employee, as family, as someone essential and chosen and loved. She had her own room now, decorated with photos of her brother and her nephew, with books and fabrics and the small treasures of a life being rebuilt. Some nights, after the boys were asleep, she and Jack would sit on the balcony, drinking tea, talking about everything and nothing. Slowly, so slowly, something had shifted between them. A hand held a moment too long, a smile that lingered, the way Jack's eyes followed her when she sang, the way Gloria's laugh softened when he made a terrible joke. Not romance yet, but the gentle beginning of it, the kind that's built on trust and respect and shared grief and hard-won hope, the kind that might last. One evening, as spring finally broke through winter's grip, Jack and Gloria sat on the balcony while the boys played inside. "They start regular school next month," Jack said quietly. "No more tutors, no more homeschooling, just normal second grade." Gloria smiled. "They're ready." "Are they?" Jack's old fear flickered. What if the other kids stare? What if they're cruel about the wheelchairs? "Jack." Gloria's hand covered his. "They're going to be fine. Kids are resilient. Your boys especially." He nodded, exhaling slowly. "I know, I still worry. That's called being a father." Her smile gentled. "But worrying and controlling are different things. You've learned that." Jack turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. The gesture was natural now, comfortable. "I couldn't have learned it without you." Gloria was quiet for a moment, her thumb tracing patterns on his palm. "Do you ever think about her?" she asked softly. "Sarah?" "Every day." Jack's voice was steady. "But it doesn't hurt the way it used to. Now it feels like she's still here, in the boys' faces, in the yellow curtains in their room, in the way Charles tells jokes just like she used to." He looked at Gloria. "I think she'd like you. I think she'd be grateful you found us when we needed you most." Tears shimmered in Gloria's eyes. "I'm grateful too." They sat in silence, hands linked, as the city lights flickered on below them. Inside, Charles called out, "Papa, Miss Gloria, come play with us." Gloria laughed. "They're going to run us ragged." "Good," Jack said, standing and pulling her to her feet. "I wouldn't have it any other way." Jack kneels on the floor, a towel draped over his head like a cape. Charles and Stephen stand on either side of him, wobbly but upright, each with their own towel capes. "Okay," Jack says in his best superhero voice. "The Super Miller brothers are ready for action. What's our mission?" "Save the princess," Stephen shouts. "Who's the princess?" Charles asks. "Miss Gloria," Gloria laughs from the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, eyes bright. "I don't need saving, boys, but I appreciate the thought." "Then who do we save?" Charles asks. Jack looks at Gloria. Their eyes meet, and something warm and unspoken passes between them. "Each other," Jack says quietly. "We save each other." Stephen grins. "That's a good mission." "The best mission," Charles agrees. They collapse into a pile of towels and laughter. Gloria joins them, kneeling on the carpet, her voice lifting in song, that same gospel tune she'd hummed on her first day. "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." Jack's voice joins hers, rough and imperfect. Then Charles's, then Stephen's. 4 voices, tangled together, filling the apartment with music and warmth and life. Later that night, after the boys have finally surrendered to sleep, Charles clutching his orange towel, Stephen with the yellow blanket tucked under his chin. Jack finds Gloria on the balcony. She's humming softly, watching the city lights below. "They asked me something today," Gloria says as Jack joins her. "If I was going to be their new mama." Jack's breath catches. "What did you say?" "I told them nobody could replace Sarah, but that families can grow, that love doesn't run out when you share it." She smiles. "Charles asked if I could be a bonus mama. Stephen said that means twice as much love." Jack reaches for her hand, threading their fingers together. "Is that what you want? To be part of this? Permanently?" Gloria turns to face him. I already am part of this, Jack. Have been for months. Then stay, he says quietly. Not someday. Now. You, me, the boys, a real family. Her eyes shimmer. You're getting better at this. At what? At saying what you mean. She steps closer, her hand resting over his heart. Yes, Jack. I'll stay. Not to replace Sarah, to honor what she started, to help you finish raising these beautiful boys. Jack pulls her close, and she leans against him, both of them wrapped in the quiet certainty of what they've built together. Thank you, he whispers, for not giving up on us. Thank you for learning how to hope again, she replies softly. Inside, Stephen's voice calls out. A dream, probably. Gloria squeezes Jack's hand and goes to him, sitting on the edge of his bed, singing softly until he settles. Charles stirs. Miss Gloria? I'm here, baby. Don't leave. I'm not going anywhere, she promises. I'm right here. Jack watches from the doorway, his heart full. This is what healing looks like. Not perfection, but presence, love, family. This is the miracle. Miracles don't always look the way we expect them to. They don't always come wrapped in medical breakthroughs or scientific explanations. Sometimes they come wrapped in kindness, in patience, in the quiet, stubborn belief that healing is possible, not because of what we achieve, but because of who we become when we stop running from hope. Jack Miller learned that the hard way. He'd spent 2 years building walls to protect himself from pain, walls of control and logic and fear. But Gloria, through her faith, her warmth, her refusal to see his sons as anything less than whole, taught him that the bravest thing he could do wasn't to control the outcome. It was to trust the journey. Charles and Stephen didn't just learn to walk again. They learned that their worth wasn't tied to what their bodies could do. They learned that joy doesn't require perfection. That family isn't about being fixed. It's about being seen. And Jack learned that love, real, transformative, redemptive love, isn't about fixing people. It's about seeing them, all of them, the broken pieces and the beautiful pieces, the fear and the hope, the past and the future, and choosing to stay. That's the real miracle, not the standing, not the walking, not even the laughter that now fills every corner of that once silent apartment. The staying, the showing up day after day, even when it's hard, even when you're terrified, even when you don't know if it will work. Gloria stayed. Jack learned to stay, and together they taught 2 small boys that they were worth staying for. That's not medicine. That's not science. That's love, the motivational kind, the inspirational kind, the kind that changes everything without changing anything at all. Because Charles and Stephen are still the same boys. They still have hard days. They still use wheelchairs sometimes. They still carry the scars of the accident that took their mother. But they're not defined by those things anymore. They're defined by the laughter, by the towel games, by the father who finally learned to play, by the woman who walked into their lives and reminded them that kindness, simple, persistent, faithful kindness, is its own kind of miracle. This is a heartwarming story, but more than that, it's a true one, not in the facts, perhaps, but in the feeling, in the recognition that we all carry grief, we all build walls, we all need someone to gently, patiently, lovingly tear those walls down and remind us how to live again. Jack Miller found that person. His sons found healing. And Gloria, who came to clean floors and ended up cleaning hearts, found a family. Not because any of them were perfect, but because they chose every single day to try, to hope, to believe, to stay. That's the romance of it. Not flowers and declarations, but presence, partnership, the quiet promise that says, I see you, and I'm not leaving. That's everything. If this story touched your heart, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What does hope look like in your life? Who helped you believe again? And if you believe in the power of kindness, that miracles can be quiet, and that love is the most motivational force in the world, hit that subscribe button. We'll be here every night with more heartwarming stories that remind us of the good still left in this world. Stories of redemption, of courage, of ordinary people doing extraordinary things just by choosing to care. Thank you for being part of this journey with us. Thank you for believing that stories like this matter. Thank you for staying. We'll see you tomorrow night. Sweet dreams.